So this is great.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. I'm excited. Father, son.
Yeah, exactly.
First
You're the
one.
first one, right?
Yeah.
I've known you a long time. I remember, I was thinking this morning, I remember the rumor that Chris and Paula had twins.
Oh, yeah.
And tell me what year that would have been.
86.
Yeah, 1986. So I would have been in
The
college.
funny story is my grandma, Farhat, she's a Kramer, but she's a Farhat. She called my dad and acted like the nurse and said,
really?
"You're having triplets." He almost lost it because he's going through graduate school and
Yeah.
they're busy and don't have any money. But yeah,
Yeah, so I remember. I mean, obviously, Chris was at our house all the time. I mean, it was Tim and John O'Leary and Rick Norris. Obviously knew him, but I didn't. I mean, it was really John O'Leary and to a certain extent Chris
sure.
Johnson. But Chris was a member of the club, and so we knew his. I knew his dad, and
He didn't really golf much, did he? Back
Chris?
then? Yeah, my dad.
not at all.
Yeah,
Not like
not like you guys.
he was a musclehead. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't even. I mean, you didn't. Obviously, your grandfather did.
oh yeah, yeah.
Gary did.
Yeah.
But you didn't really think of him as a member of the club.
No, I don't think he played much until later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're working right now, following in your dad's footsteps a little bit.
Yeah, trying. I took over the business 2 years ago.
Right.
And,
Was it a hostile takeover?
no,
or?
it was very good. I mean, we kind of knew early on what the plan was. I mean, I always joke that I was always his boss, which is unique.
Right.
He allowed me to kind of do that, but
Manage him.
we wanted. COVID changed everything. We were on
Right.
the road 100 days a year before COVID, and then you go to the virtual thing, and so I think he saw that there was going to be a transition, succession, and so we got in front of it, and it's been good. Now I still need him to come in and do some work and come in and speak.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, it's great. And then he
Yeah.
can go up north for 6 months.
And you're married and you have how many kids?
3 kids.
And you're a Hazlitt graduate and
Graduate Hazlitt, live in Mason,
Grand Valley State.
went to Grand Valley, played golf at Grand Valley.
Right.
Yeah.
And have you worked anywhere else?
Yeah, my first job out of college was with auto owners.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, and so I knew I wanted to do 2 things. I wanted to do health, but I had this entrepreneur spirit, and I wanted to learn business. So I kind of say, I got the health passion from my dad, and then I kind of got this business passion from my grandfather. And my first day at Gary, yeah. And so I knew early on, watching my dad, the challenge with the personal trainer is always, how do you do it for a living?
Right.
We've both known many personal trainers that can do it 10, 15 years, but not 30, 40, 50.
Right.
So I knew I needed to learn the business. And my first job, I wanted to be the wellness person for auto owners. Met with the CEO time and Ron Simon. And I went there and he said, one interesting thing, you're going to have to learn insurance first. So my first
Right.
job was being an underwriter at auto owners.
So you know how this works, right? So usually we start out at the beginning, we talk about, your upbringing, your family, and then, what are you doing now?
Sure.
And then some final closing thoughts on where do you go from here, right?
Cool.
The true,
The true A-lister.
becoming Matt Johnson, right? So you're born in Hazlitt, and your dad is
I went to Lansing until 6th grade. So I went to Elmhurst. Then I went
Right.
to Luton.
And so where were your parents living? Must have been over in the
Yeah, right on Bel Air, right
Yeah.
down the street from Luton Elementary School.
Okay,
I was
south
born,
of Mount Hope,
I was born on Quinton by Elmhurst
right?
until I was 6. So pretty, right in that same colonial
Yeah.
village area.
Right. And your twin is your sister, right?
Yeah, older by a minute.
And tell me, Kristen?
Yep.
Right. And so, your dad at the time is in 86 is doing what? He's getting his master's?
He's driving a Frito-Lay truck and getting his master's
Yeah.
and chasing 2 twins around.
Right. And your mom is working at Foster
Foster
Swift as a paralegal, right?
She was a legal secretary until probably the 90s, then kind of went over to the IT.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, I think who were her attorneys? Bill Fahey.
Yeah.
And,
litigator.
Yeah.
Litigator.
She loved, I mean, that was a great career for her. She loved it.
Yeah. And so when do you start playing golf?
Well, my initials are MJ, and I grew up with Michael Jordan as my idol. And so basketball was my favorite sport. But I started playing serious golf around 11, 12. Would go to the course, go to the club occasionally, but I wasn't any good or had any passion.
Where would you go?
We would hit balls at Luton Elementary School, right at that brick wall there. And Sycamore was around, Groesbeck was around. But I'd go with my grandpa to the Invitational and caddy for him.
Public courses mainly, right?
Yeah. We weren't a member of the country club,
right?
But then around 11, 12, when we went from, I went to Immaculate Heart of Mary from 3rd grade to 5th grade, and then we moved to Hazlitt.
IMH over off of Cedar, right?
Yeah. So when we moved to Hazlitt, some of those kids were starting to play golf, and I thought I was decent because I was around the club, and
right.
Where did these kids play?
It was just in your blood, right?
Yeah.
It's by heritage.
So we'd go to Lake of the Hills in Hazlitt, and it was an early wake up call that, number one, I'm not any good, and I don't really know how to play. So that's 6th grade.
And who are you playing with?
Sean Rutherford was at the time probably not really that close a friend because I just moved there.
Right.
But he was a great athlete, really good golfer, and he was schooling us. We barely could hit our driver to the green on a par 3, and he's hitting 5 irons.
Yeah. Are you still playing basketball and other sports?
Yeah. I always loved sports. So I started realizing that I liked golf.
Right.
And then would play every day, Lake of the Hills, and then we went over to Pine Lake, which is now Bernese Sun. So that's 7th, 8th grade. And
how did you get there?
Rode a bike.
Yeah, with your clubs?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We could cut through this neighbor's house and then take it across the street.
And you had sidewalks mainly, so you could get there, right? Or were you in the street?
We were in the street for a little bit, yeah. You know how it is. I mean, I was listening to your thing with Casey. I mean, that's how you got to the course. You'd buy a membership and you'd be there from.
Yeah, I mean, you were sort of in that mixed era, like and when we were growing up, I mean, the country club was a different deal, let's say, but we really didn't tell our parents what we were. I mean, we really didn't want them to know. Like, not that we were doing anything wrong, but they'd ask, how was your day? I was fine. What'd you do? Nothing. Nothing.
I mean, we were doing some wrong things on the golf course, but you're having fun. It's innocent enough. Yeah. But you're playing 54 holes a day.
Anything you could do. Yeah. We I remember at least one time we got on our bikes and rode over to Groesbeck, and I mean, riding down the middle of Pennsylvania on our bikes with our clubs on. I mean, we didn't think anything of it.
Well, when we lived next to Luton, we were riding our bikes all over that area.
Yeah.
I don't think too many 8, 10-year-olds are riding their bikes around that area right now.
Over by the Elks, they had the little the trails in the woods.
We never could go down that far. That was off limits. Yeah. But we could go over to the White Rich and
Colonial Village,
down Pleasant Grove a little bit.
Yeah. And so you start playing Lake of the Hills, and
I didn't really start playing though until I got to Pine Lake, Meridian Sun.
And was that 9 or 18 holes at the
18
time?
holes.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was Pine Lake, Meridian Sun, and they hadn't done the redevelopment. So there's these 2 holes that's now the driving range, and these were underwater for
most of the year.
They're cool holes. They're just terribly designed in the marsh, and so of course it was completely different than it is today.
Believe it or not, we played that course in a qualifier for Michigan State.
Oh, really?
And it would have been in the 80s, and
I love the course.
In the middle of the round, it started snowing. There was like snow on the putting green, and I remember putting, and you could see the ball track. I mean, I remember making a putt, and you could see like a 20-foot ball track because of the snow. And then the other thing, and I think, like if I played it less than 5 times, but I remember.
In your whole life?
Yeah, and I think that maybe it was only 9 holes, and we played 9 holes twice, but is the 9th or 18, are there electrical wires?
9th.
So the 9th hole, I've never seen this happen. I was playing with Jerome. Jerome hits a tee shot, hits the electrical wire, comes straight down. And I get at the time we didn't even think about it because back then you just played the ball as it lied.
There's no electrical wires at Lansing Country Club. You're
No,
gonna hit
no, but and we just played it as apparently now, or maybe even then, there's a rule that you got to re-tee it.
Yeah, so you're going to learn something. So if you play these courses,
Right.
that's a rule. So I learned that rule early on because you'd hit that 3 out of 10 times.
Really?
Yeah, so it's 100 yards off the tee box,
Yeah.
right where you need to hit.
Yeah.
It's the longest hole in the course.
Is it a par 5
No, it's par 4,
Par 4.
466.
downhill slightly or not?
Yeah, maybe, but OB's right.
Yeah.
You could blast it as far as you can left, but as a young kid, you're worried about OB.
Yeah.
It's 466. You got to tag one to get home in 2.
Right.
So we fast forward to high school, we're playing a match, and we're really good. And so Fowlerville was in town for a jamboree or a tournament, and they're terrible. If they break 50, they're doing great.
Yeah.
This kid's 1 over par. He's shooting the score of his.
Best round of his life.
And the coach, they must have had some weird coach. The coach required them to hit iron off the last hole. Well, you can hit it as far left as you want to.
Yeah.
Iron, you're not going to get home. This kid's 1 over par.
Right.
He blasts it right down the fairway, hits the wire. And the rule is you have to re-hit.
Right.
Can.
I think that's the rule now, though.
Yeah, you have to re-hit it.
Right.
And normally you'd want to. I mean, it's going to take.
Right.
So this kid hits it perfectly, hits the wire. Next one goes out of bounds. Next one. So then the coach is mad at him, and you're looking and you're thinking, dude, this is the most unlucky break, and having him hit an iron off tee is idiotic too.
Yeah, I can't remember who we talked to, but maybe it was Casey. But the thing about high school golf and to some degree college golf, they're not necessarily golfers, right?
Yeah, think of Fowlerville. There's not a lot of golfers
They're just people who are
playing.
babysitting to some. They're managing.
Oh, the golf coach.
Yeah, they're logistics, right? They're just getting people there on time, and and unfortunately, some of them actually think they've read a book and they now understand.
Golf's. I mean, Casey is as professional as they get, but golf is it could be a very powerful position in the sense of teaching these kids some life lessons.
Yeah, for sure.
But it also can be confusing. Do I need to instruct them?
Right,
You don't need to do all that.
Right, because and so you're playing high school golf at Meridian Sun.
Yeah. So after I went to Hazlitt, I really started to like golf. Still playing all the sports, but we're putting in 54 holes a day
at
Pine Hills Meridian Sun. We'd bike over with our clubs on our back, and then we go home, and we do that every single day. And so you get to 9th grade. Well, 8th grade, you know that you're going to try to go on the team in 8th grade.
Are you playing any other sports?
Yeah, I'm playing basketball,
and
track.
And by then your dad is all in at the MAC, right?
Yeah, he's been all in for a while, since '92. So
Yeah.
this would have been I graduated in '04, so this would have been early 2000s, late 1999.
Yeah, and are you going to the MAC pretty regular?
I go to the MAC to play basketball and stuff, but I wasn't lifting weights yet, or I didn't get that bug yet.
And is your dad like coming home and there's no sugar and it's all?
No, I mean my mom's Lebanese,
Right.
So we eat. We were my whole story, and I do this in my presentations. We could have whatever we wanted. Now they're not going to buy pop and crap in the house, but we had some crap. We're kids,
Right.
And the neighbor kids would come over, and so you got to have a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
But we were taught how to eat. My mom taught us how to cook at a really young age. My dad obviously is over there. Everyone's like, "Wow, your dad looks good," and
Right.
he must do. Yeah, he's walking the walk, and so we learned this, but we didn't have to necessarily always do it.
Right.
So we, at the golf course, we were still having hot dogs and hamburgers, but when you came home, there's always good food in the house.
Good food, so it wasn't.
But it didn't mean that we had to do it.
Right.
And I wasn't, my dad encouraged us to weight train, but it wasn't cool yet. It wasn't part of the regiment.
Right.
And I got into that later, but
It's
early 2000s, and
Yeah.
you're trying to make this team.
Yeah, but that's pre-high school. So what you're saying is up till then, your dad, maybe 8 years before that, he's running the MAC and coming home, and you're saying, hey, it was basically like any other household.
It's like any other household, except we didn't have all the junk food, and we weren't going out to eat fast food on a regular like that wasn't the normal part. So my sister kind of rebelled a little bit more. All her friends ate junk food.
Right.
Probably felt terrible, but that was cool. And so, you kind of learn both sides. And her story is that she wanted that. And when she experienced it, she's like, I don't feel very good. so you self-correct. I'd go to the MAC and I'd register and I'd bring in 15 guests, and probably like you as a kid at the club, you're charging the bill. And I'd come home. My dad'd say, hey, we're in trouble here. You spent $350 at the MAC at the restaurant. And at the time, the store owners were running the restaurant, and they would have a banquet with prime rib. And on Mondays, it would be prime rib Alfredo. So I'd order all my buddies prime rib Alfredo, and it'd be a $350 bill. So we had so much fun running around that place.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. I mean,
it was a good spot to grow up.
Yeah, everybody got that talking to at some point in time.
If you got a membership that you think it's kind of like free,
Yeah.
like just put it on the account.
Yeah.
I was a great tipper too.
Yeah, exactly. Big shooter with somebody else's money. So going into high school, you're gonna play golf, right?
Yeah, my best sport probably was track. I was a really good runner.
Long distance or sprint?
Yeah, like mile, 2 mile.
Yeah, okay.
And it's interesting. By this time, my best friend Sean Rutherford, he's a great athlete, basketball player, track. He got me kind of into track, but he's a great golfer, and so he's shooting mid-70s in 8th grade.
Wow.
I think I'm shooting mid-80s, probably, if you really count it correctly, probably mid-90s. And so we're going into 9th grade, and you know that you're going to qualify, and Sean's most likely going to be on the varsity. He's that good.
Right.
And so we go into – so golf is in the fall
Right.
when I'm playing in for you. And I should make the team. And I go in, and it's the third day, and I'm right there. There's 14 kids that they're going to take on the whole team.
Right.
JV.
So did you have a 9th grade team or not?
No 9th grade team.
So just varsity and JV,
Yeah.
right?
We're not a huge school, so that's
was it 5 count 4 or 6 count 4?
It's 6 count 4.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then
Until you go to the tournaments, 5 count 4.
And generally they're 9-hole matches, right?
Well, yeah, your kind of league stuff is 9-hole.
Right.
Then they went to Jamboree, which is like 3 teams or 16.
Invitationals, they had 18. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Hazlitt at the time had never made the state finals as a team. So they don't have a huge pedigree, except they did have a state winner. They had someone win Earl Eckenrode in like the 80s.
Really?
So
they're Class B at the time.
Class B, yeah, Division II. And so there's some kids older than us that are pretty good, and you kind of see them around the course. And so Sean's going to make varsity. I'm going to make the team with a couple other buddies. And it's the third day, and I'm playing decent enough, not great. And it finishes par 5, par 3, par 4. I go 8, 7, 8.
Oh.
And I miss whatever the cut is by 1 or 2, and I go into this bar, and he says, hey, you got some good things, but you're going to miss the team. So I got cut my freshman year.
Wow.
And that
had to be a heartbreaker, right?
So you asked,
especially at 54 holes a day, right?
I'm putting in plenty of time.
Yeah.
But I'm not very good, and I don't know how to use my time. But I didn't realize that. So talk about riding your bike across the street.
What do you think you're shooting?
I think
80s, 85-ish?
For that, I probably shot in the high 90s to miss the cut.
High 90s.
But I finished 8, 7, 8.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Yeah. And, it was all nerves.
Right.
I knew all I had to do was, barely make bogey.
Thinking about outcome and not just playing.
Yeah, and so you talk about riding my bike. So I rode my bike to tryouts that day. Yeah. And so I'm riding my bike and just like, shoulders are slumped over, and I don't even care if cars are coming. I'm going right over. And so I ride at home, and I'm really tore up. And I remember this was kind of the pivot point. Do you want to play golf, or do you just want to show up?
Right.
And I didn't want to just show up, but I would have just showed up for the next 4 years if I just made the team. So I ended up playing basketball like I did, but I didn't love basketball. I loved golf at the time.
Playing basketball in high school.
Yeah, so it went from fall. I got cut, didn't play that year, Didn't really
Right.
play. Clubs went away for a little bit. Basketball and then track. And so I was really good at track. And so the cross country coach found out that I got cut. He says, hey, you need to go out for cross country. You don't have anything to do
In the fall.
to help you for track. Well, I didn't like cross country. I like track. It's a whole different thing. Through the woods and trails, think of hippie runners.
Yeah, no.
I was like, I wanted to run fast, and that's it.
Most of the time they run on the golf course too, right?
Yeah, golf course.
Yeah.
So I go out for 2 days, and it just wasn't my thing, so I quit.
Cross country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because of that, the track coach was also the one pushing me. I ended up quitting track because they're just kind of pressuring me into something I wanted to make that golf team that I didn't.
Right.
So my dad sits me down and says, hey, you think you're pretty good, but you've never got a lesson. You don't practice very hard. You just play. So if you want to be good, you got to put in some work. And so that's when I started getting lessons with John Del Corobo. At the time, it would have been at Forest Acres.
Right.
And I
When do
committed.
you think that was?
That was my freshman year,
So
1999, 2000.
that would have been maybe right when he started, or
He was at Walnut Hills before I met him, but when I started working with him, he was at Forest Acres. And my dad had been getting instruction from him. I didn't necessarily, it wasn't the thing to go do the TrackMan and the instruction. You either play and you're good, or you play and you're not very good.
you're young and you know, what do I need a lesson for? You know, right?
So he sat me down and said, hey, if you want to get good, there's things you got to do. You know, I'm hitting a huge draw with a huge, strong grip.
Yeah.
It's not very controllable. Don't really know how to putt. And so he kind of started teaching me the game. And so that winter, I started getting lessons in the Dome at Fun Time. Started learning the game, putting in the work. You know, every golfer at that time has their own camera. You're taking video, no phones, but you got cameras.
Corobo was very good at the technical aspect of the game.
Yeah, he was very technical. I think he learned from Grady or Mac O'Grady, I think was the instructor. It's a very unique swing.
I took a lesson from him, and he kept telling me, you're off plane, you know, you're or whatever. He kept talking about the plane, and I was like, I don't have any idea what you're talking about. What are you talking about?
Did you get lessons
from him?
before that?
Not, you mean like growing up as
Yeah.
a junior? I would have gotten lessons. I would have been like post college, right? We didn't really.
Did Bruce ever give you lessons?
Not really. I mean, we would have gone to the Michigan State golf camp,
Sure.
and when we were at the club, they would have like the junior golf, right? And whether it was Lynn Jansen or Gary Domagowski or whatever, Steve Morris, they would walk up and down and they'd just point out like, hey, you need to do this. I mean,
Sure.
and when we went to Michigan State or we went to
Acres.
Ferris State golf camp. So we went to these golf camps and they would tell you about the grip and, you know, they would tell you about different things.
You're not going every week to somebody. You don't have video.
No.
So John's the first person I know. So he had this mobile setup. It was like a box, and he could like spin this thing, and it would fast forward your swing and
Right.
show you lines. And
Right.
so we started breaking it down and grip and all that stuff. And I became a disciple of John Del Corobo, and it was a very unique swing. I don't think I necessarily have that same swing today, but there's some things in that I learned that are John. You know, you can tell that's a John Del Corobo, person he's instructing.
Mm-hmm.
And so probably, I don't remember that summer necessarily, but I must have from winter to the end of the summer, I kind of started realizing I got a lot better. So I had this confidence that I didn't have the year before.
How far do you think you're able to hit it? And
Sophomore year, I mean, I'm hitting it 265. You think it's 300, but 265.
but you're able to hit obviously most of the holes, all the holes in regulation. Par fives, you're close to being on it too, right?
Yeah, so I went
You're
from
out driving most people, really.
Yeah, my sophomore year, I went from, and I played in a couple of tournaments. I remember my first tournament win was that summer. And I mean, never even thought of winning a tournament.
And who was that against? What
That would have
tournament
been
was
like the Mizuno Tour. You know,
Okay.
that was a local Lansing thing, and it's a big deal at the time.
Right.
So you get a trophy, and now you got a little pep in your step, and then you go into the tryouts, and I ended up becoming one of the top 5 players that year. And again, another learning lesson. The first
Where's
tournament,
your buddy Rutherford?
he's won. So that year he was top 10 in the state. He was all state as a freshman. And so, he's pulling me up because
Right.
he's hitting a lot longer. He's hitting it a lot better.
And
And
you're
so
playing with him.
I'm playing with him. And
You're near, he's your guy. Like if you're gonna go play, he's the guy you're playing with.
so that first tournament, I think the tournament was at Acres West in
In the
fall.
beginning of the fall.
Yeah, it's the first
they
tournament.
had like a big high school invitational, right?
Yeah, and so my coach that cut me, that's a whole different story. We can go into that, but I respect the hell out of him for cutting me because he
Right.
could have just put me on the team, but he's doing the right thing, and it made me work.
Right.
The next year they changed coaches, and this coach was as good a coach for me as I possibly could have had because he didn't do the X's and O's, but he held you accountable. Well, that first tournament, I'm top 5, going to varsity. Sean's supposed to pick me up. I sleep through my alarm. He's banging on the door. I'm not waking up. So I miss this practice. And so I have to sit out the first tournament. So I go cut, I come back, I charge forward, and now I'm supposed to be at this tournament. Now I have to sit out. And so you're learning these things early on
Right.
that really set the table for the future. Fast forward that year, it's the first team to ever make it to the States, Hazlitt. And I actually got third in regionals to get us to the state finals. I think I
As
finished
a
like
sophomore.
as a sophomore. I think I finished like 20th at Acres West. And that's when I first saw Ryan Brem. He makes a 20-footer on the last hole for Eagle, which would have been,
He would have been how much older than you?
we're at the same year.
Oh, same year.
But I hadn't seen him because I didn't play that
Right.
first year.
Right.
So he wins state finals his freshman year. Second year, my year that I show up, he wins state finals. And
Okay.
he's
Class B.
he's hitting 2 irons as far as my driver.
Right.
And so you start realizing there's some good players. You're gonna have to work at it, not just show up and
Yeah.
beat the kids on your team. And we became a pretty powerful team.
Now in Okemos they had Tungate.
Yeah, so Grant became really close friend my senior year.
Okay.
Now-
and so you would have been playing against him, right?
Yeah, Grant would have been the guy that I hated the most
Right.
playing against, basketball and golf. And what happened was my senior year, I was just getting better each year. And I was starting to hit it pretty far, pretty powerful, and started to become a name in the area. And so Matt Friend was an Okemos guy. Grant Tungate was an Okemos guy. We started working at Acres. And so they started getting lessons from John Del Crobo. So all 3 of us were getting lessons from John Del
Right,
Crobo, and we're
right.
probably the 3 of the best guys in the area. But yeah, Grant and I became real close later. But early on, we just hated each other, but because of competition.
Right.
We like to compete against
Well,
each other.
I mean, that's a sort of a natural thing, especially because you don't really know him, right? And you're trying to beat him and whatever. He goes to Okemos, you go. I mean, we felt the same way about the East Lansing guys, especially when it came to golf. But obviously, Kerry Campbell, who was a year older than us, older than me, long time, lifetime friend, to
Sure.
this day. But
Yeah, that's how it turned out. And we the summer before my senior year is when I won the All State or All City,
All City.
and I was the first high school player to win that. But
And-
the only
and
reason I'm
so
playing in
you
that
win
is
the All City where? At Forest Acres?
it was Acres East and then West.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was probably the favorite to win, or Grant and I.
Really?
Yeah, so Grant goes out and shoots 68 in the first round. I shoot 72. And Acres East is easy.
Right.
So that 72 feels terrible. But I played,
It's over par, isn't it?
at the time, that's even par.
Okay.
But that front nine always gave me some trouble those first couple holes. You kind of think about roads and OB. And so, I probably put a little too much
I don't
pressure.
even know what the front nine is. That's the one that finishes coming. The first hole goes north down Harrison, right? Okay.
First hole's easy, but second hole rides the road, so you could think
Right.
of hit. And I hit
Yeah.
a big draw. So, it got my head. So the first day, I'm not out of it, but I'm 4 or 5 shots back.
But you're even par, I mean,
So then where I really started to realize I was really getting good is I shot 68 the second round at the West.
at the West,
Yeah, and
right?
I just completely,
From the green tees,
yeah, probably green tees.
Yeah.
And I probably
which
completely,
is still a good round.
yeah. And a lot of college players are playing. At that time, I was the first player to win as a high schooler. And so since then, a lot of high schoolers win, but it was a big deal to be competing. And
It used to be the city tournament, and
Yeah.
probably right when you won it was still the event, right?
I think so. I mean, 100 and some guys,
Yeah,
it's getting the LSJs writing a full article on it.
right.
I
yeah,
mean,
no,
I-
I remember when you won.
Yeah.
Now, did you win? Did Freddie Beheimer win after you, or Freddie Beheimer the third, the one that's closer to your age? He'd be older than you, right?
Yeah, he'd have been older. I think he might have won before because I believe I win it as a high schooler, and then Eric Lillebo and Josh Burt start winning it as high schoolers after me.
Okay.
So, it becomes kind of a high school showcase to get out of the city.
And how'd you feel about that when you won?
I mean, I never won anything, and so at that time, it's funny. You look back and you're kind of naive. I think I'm going to Michigan State. That's where the Michigan State players win. I'm shooting
Right.
5 under par.
Mark Hankins is the coach.
Yeah, and so he takes notice. You have to. I beat a couple of his players. I beat all of Grand Valley's players, and
Matt Harmon is
Matt Harmon probably didn't play in it, but
no, he wouldn't have played. But is he your?
he's
class?
1 year older.
Okay, he's 1 year older.
Yeah,
And you went as a senior or
I won as going into my senior year.
yeah.
because it's a fall.
So he would have been at Michigan State then, Matt Harmon, right?
He would have been going to Michigan State that summer.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because All City was in
Yeah.
August.
And then and Ryan Brem is the same year as you, so he's up in Mount Pleasant.
Yeah, he's going. So, Mark Hankins, he sees it, and there's a lot of people locally that are for me. I'm on Tim Stout's radio show,
Including me.
including you, and so everyone's kind of pulling for me. Michigan State wasn't the fit, but I thought I was going to go there.
Right.
So I get a call that winter from Grand Valley's coach, and he says, "Hey, I want you to come here." I beat
And who's that?
Don Underwood, and Don's a legend coach at Grand Valley, and half his team was in the All City. And
Okay.
So I show up there, but I
Which
say
would have been who?
Chris Johnson, which is from LCC. He was a good player, played with Polo.
Lansing Community.
Bill
Lansing
Schmidt.
Catholic.
Bill Schmidt was a legendary junior golfer in the area. Went to Grand Valley.
Right.
Josh Orler
I know Josh.
was in my grade. Ended up going to Grand Valley with him.
He went to Mason. Right?
Grant was in the tournament. So Mark was looking at me, and
Right.
but the truth is there's more to a golfer than just how they do in a tournament. And I never had played an AGGA or a national tournament, so I started doing some of that stuff. And funny story, Mark called me and said, "Hey, you haven't done anything nationally. That's kind of holding you back. Ryan's coming for sure.
Right.
That's a lock and loaded. He could gone anywhere in the country." And so I only got one spot left, and it's between you and a couple guys, Nate Gunthorpe, Grant Tungate, a guy named Dan Doyle at the time. And so there's some good players.
Yeah.
He says, "You need to compete nationally." So I call my grandpa. There's a tournament in Vegas. And if anyone listening knows my grandpa, he's a gambler.
Yes, of course. He called the right guy. He knew everybody.
Yeah, so he calls out there. I don't know who he knows. He thinks still there's the Desert Sands, but it doesn't even exist. And he gets comped. So we go out to the Hilton and on the Strip. My tournament's 45 minutes away at Reflection Bay. Gets us comped. I get a limo to my tournament, red limo.
Right.
We have this suite, blah, blah, blah. He's got to gamble. So he's gambling. I'm playing in this tournament. I don't even think I'm 18 years old yet. You can't do anything Vegas under 18.
Right.
So I'm playing, and I play decent. And the second day, he comes in my bedroom middle of the night because at this time they upgraded him to his own room, me to my own room, throws 10 grand on my bed and says, "Hey, I had a good night." I'm thinking I got to wake up in 2 hours. So we had a great time. End of the story is Grand Valley offered me early on. I delayed it. I said Michigan State might give me an offer, and I want to wait if I can. And the coach at Grand Valley was very respectful of that. And so eventually Grant Tungate, Nate Gunthorpe ended up going to Michigan State. And then I went to Grand Valley. And it was, looking back, the best possible thing that could happen to me.
Really?
I didn't do real well in school. It's funny, I never filled out a college application because after my sophomore year, I knew I was going to play college golf somewhere. But I didn't do well academically. And the last thing Michigan State wanted was this kid that was on the fringe that there's 3 other kids doing way better academically.
Right.
And so that kind of, I think, was the end thing. And Nate and Grant are 2 of my best, well, not Nate, but Grant's my best man at my wedding. So there was no hard feelings, and I went to the right fit.
Yeah, and Mark was tough, and I remember talking to Mark like, "What are you doing? From our perspective.
Yeah.
This guy's a perfect fit for you." And Mark never really said anything, negative, or he basically, in his way, which was not saying anything, but he would say, "I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing." Because we were also big advocates of polo.
Yeah, polo would have been an amazing fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Mark had his idea, and it was going to be his team, and
I think he's the best at seeing potential.
Yeah.
And he knows the right fit. And even to this day, if I saw Mark, he made the right choice.
Yeah.
And I tell a lot of people, I'm coaching my sons and different things, and
Right.
there's sometimes the hard choice that's the right choice. And
Right.
I don't know how hard it was. It wasn't elite, but locally I was pretty damn good. And so that was the thing that even gave me a chance. And, if I won a city tournament in
Yeah.
Grand Rapids, no one would probably even pay attention at Michigan State.
So you go to Grand Valley, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which at the time was, it's God, it seems like everybody here, either, from this area, half the people from this area go to Grand Valley now. And
I knew nothing about it. The first time we went under the Grand Valley arch, I was like, this is unbelievable. Like the amount of money and clean, it's clean, and the girl ratio was 6-1 when I first entered. Like it was
dorms are probably better, and
amazing.
Everything's brand new. And
golf course is sweet, and they have great athletics. So I show up there, and we have 7 freshmen. So he's making a whole different change. And, Josh Orler, to me, and part of the equation, Josh Orler is probably the best golfer in the area. He just had a bad last round of his state finals, or else he would have gone to Michigan State, and none of us would have probably even been looked at.
I played with Josh a bunch, and, man, I thought he was really good.
Josh Orler is...
Because he was Robert Matison's nephew, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Josh Orler is the best golfer I've played with in this area. He just didn't love it.
Well,
that's part of it,
Right.
And still to this day, where I'm going skiing with him in a couple weeks, and he likes hunting and fishing, but he still has one of the best swings and hits some shots that.
Does he? That's good to hear, because I played competitively against him in some best balls that they used to hold it, and I remember him and Matison shooting like 65 or 64.
Well, we joke when I've coached and been a friend of Ryan Brems for a long time, and the one person that had Ryan's number for the 4 years of high school was Josh Orler.
Really?
Yeah, he probably beat him 3 out of 4 times head to head in different invitationals. He was very elite high school player.
Yeah, I mean he was. He played a lot with Bob Matison, and Bob was very.
And Bob's still elite.
No, but I mean Bob was Bob's. He obviously had a very good golf swing and mechanics and everything about him, but I think mentally he was really tough, right?
He taught Josh how to play golf, like a professional golfer in high school.
Right.
So, it was like, and I live in Mason now, so Mason was always like that, blue collar come in, and Okemos and Hazlitt was nothing, but we were pretty.
I think I played against him maybe even before he was in high school. And I mean, he was good even before he was in high school.
Yeah.
And I remember then years later, probably, I don't know when the last time I was in the MAC, but he was, he might have been with Mason.
Yeah.
Novas.
Yeah.
Could have been, but we were sitting in the sauna, and I'm like, hey, whatever happened to Josh Oler? And he said, oh, that's me. I'm right.
Yeah. That's funny.
I'm sitting right, he's sitting right next to me,
Yeah, Josh is a close friend. Mason's a close friend, but yeah, Josh is one of the best golfers in the area.
It's interesting how, I don't know, I'm sure every sport is like this in a way, but the community of competitive golf at a, distinctive level like you guys were, and it really didn't matter. You weren't country club kids, you grew up and you really... Not only you become very good, but then you become lifelong bonds, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I think at that 04, 05, you got Harmon and Brem and different players, and you talked about it with Casey. That's a tough era to kind of touch, and so it was a tough competition.
Yeah.
Showing up to state finals. So my senior year, we have 3 All-Staters: Sean Rutherford, me, and a guy named Sam Berman. And
Sam was a really good player.
yeah, and so all we needed was someone to tie their shoes and fill out a scorecard. We win the state finals.
Right.
Well, we didn't. You know, the 4th and 5th guy both shot in the 90s, and we lose state finals by a couple shots to Ryan,
Yeah,
who beat me by 12, and I got 3rd.
Wow.
So
You'll never forget that, right?
No, I mean, Ryan could carry a team. He's that elite. But we had a really, we were really proud of it. Well, 2 years later, Hazlitt ends up winning state finals with Gary Bissell and Chris Morey. But we kind of set the table. We never had made it to states until my sophomore year.
And those guys would have been on the team then, right?
If Gary's listening, the funniest part of Gary's on my team my senior year.
Yeah.
And he was decent enough. He was so nervous he didn't want to play in the state finals, so we didn't play him.
Oh, God.
All he would have had to do was probably shoot 89, we win the state finals. So every time I see him.
And back then it was 36 holes.
Yeah, it's 2 days, 36 holes.
Yeah, so for us it was one day and one and done.
And back then you had to have a guy with you. So the regionals and the state finals scores, and so all these teams that were pretty good that had cheaters.
Why do you think that is?
Yeah, and so my senior year, all you got to do is, Gary would have had to shoot a couple 80s, but he turned out to be a great.
At the East.
No, that was at
wasn't at
that was at Eagle. That was at Eagle Crest in Ypsilanti.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, kind of a squirrely course for a state finals.
Yeah, because cheating in high school golf,
it was super prevalent.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
back then
you don't realize how
there's guys shooting 72 and then they get the state final shooting 95 because they're now getting scored.
I remember my first, I guess it would have been high school qualifier. At Roll Scott for Sexton. And there's, 20 guys. And I'm playing with the senior. And on the second or third hole, I hit it down the right side in the trees. And the senior walks over and picks up my ball and tosses it. He says, "You don't have to play that shot." I said, What are you talking about?
It's pretty. Back then it was. I don't know if it is now. I'm not around it as much.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more electronic. You're keeping score on phones.
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah. And whatever. It's. But I mean, I'm sure it's
one other player in the area, Quinn Hoffman. He was from Portland, and so we just had these very unique, not your typical AJGA. There's no TrackMan. There's no. And these were some really good, learn it their own way. I mean, all those individuals I talked about all learned golf completely in a different way.
Right.
And then came and assembled. And
I mean, when you talk about Nate Gunthorpe, right? So Jerry would have been class of 81. I was class of 83. And, when I was a sophomore, which was my first year at Sexton because they didn't have ninth grade. But there were, strong seniors. It would have been Jerry was at Everett, and Dean Holland was at Waverly, and Chris Nikoloff. All of them were really good golfers, but Jerry wasn't, the accomplished golfer.
Oh, really? He wasn't.
He wasn't. No, I don't think he won. He didn't win the CAC. I don't think, and I don't because that year Jeff Weeks from East Lansing won. It was 79 at Lansing Country Club.
Now, right now, is he 64, 65?
He would be, I mean, he was 2 years, so he's 62 or 63.
I still got to play my best game to beat him today. I mean,
I don't think you could beat him, but.
There you go. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, he's as good as they get.
If you can't putt and you can't, you got to, I mean, you're not playing enough.
No, I don't.
You'd have to be playing.
So Nate's really good, and I joke with Nate, but Nick came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So I was at Grand Valley, and this kid shows up at Gunthorpe, and he's probably getting looked at because of the name, and you're thinking, I never heard of him.
Right.
Shoots 29 in the first 9 holes of the qualifier. And Nick, to this day, probably is one of the best golfers that, had probably no offers in the state. And he doesn't play as much anymore, but he still can. So the Gunthorpe name is pretty powerful.
They're strong. So you play 4 years at Grand Valley?
I had a little bit of a tough half of my freshman year and sophomore year. I just kind of lost my swing. I tried to start hitting a cut, and so I redshirted. So I played 5 years, but
Okay.
we had a good time. We won two conference championships, which at the time I think I was the only player to be on two teams that won conferences. Now Grand Valley wins it every year. They're really
Right.
really
And
tough.
tell me who Grand Valley would have played against.
Fair State,
Okay.
Eric would have been on that team a little bit later. He's 2 years
Right.
younger. Wayne State had some really good players. Fair State,
Is that where Joe Jessic played?
yep.
Yeah.
Joe was in that
Where did Brian Stewart play? Was it Oakland?
Oakland.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
And then Saginaw Valley's where Sean Rutherford ended up going, and they had a good team too.
Okay.
So there's a lot of good teams, and we probably had the best talent. Didn't always put it together, but 2 out of the 5 years we won conferences.
Right. And tell me what that's like playing Division One golf. I mean, was it
Division two, Grand Valley's
Division Two? But what it's like playing college golf? I mean, is it all the fanfare?
It's two things. It can either be a job and a chore and you start to get burned out, or it can be the
Right.
best thing ever. I had to learn to go from love to a little bit of a chore. You're practicing, you got regimens, you got to
Right.
do this, trying to qualify. Then I had to re-love it. And so by the end of it, 15 of my best friends are my guys that I at some point cross paths playing on the golf team.
Right.
So it means best time of your life. In the midst of it, you're complaining about not eating enough food. You're in the van, on the road, staying at, these terrible
And
motels.
tell me when this is 04 to 08 or
This would have been, or 05 to 09.
okay. And so are you start getting into the health and the diet?
My senior year of high school, I started getting to it. So Grant Tungate and I started to lift weights and really focus on nutrition. And so you go to college and you start to make the bad choices. And I early on realized my parents were actually doing something really helpful for me, because really quickly when you start eating dorm food and
Right.
eating a bunch of shit, you don't feel very good. So I kind of self-corrected and realized this is important. And that's where I went into the degree of exercise physiology, and then I minored in entrepreneurship. So I
Okay.
started really getting into it, what I ate, how I moved my body, specifically to golf, but I saw more than just the golf angle.
Right.
Early on I knew I was going to play professional golf.
And did they have the type of major and the ability to study and advance in that area?
Again, I could have probably done any degree with the health and figured it out later.
Right.
There's so many different ways to learn it. The entrepreneurship, Grand Valley, Grand Rapids is so entrepreneur. So
Right.
that was, to me, the best thing ever. I was part of the first entrepreneurship minor. And so you go around to these local businesses and learn how they do it. And, how else would you learn that?
Internships.
Yeah,
type of thing?
internships, you're making business plans. And I remember asking, like, what's a business plan? Where do you get these numbers? And they're
Right.
like, well, you got to go figure them out. Like, well, but who's going to show me? So I was so used to school, like, this is how you do it. And the entrepreneurship kind of showed you could do whatever you wanted if you kind of, dig in. So the Grand Rapids was amazing for that. And it gave me the other side of health that I knew I needed to get in college. The other stuff, anatomy, physiology, you can learn that anywhere.
And is your dad running?
Ontario Living started in 06. So like right in the middle, he'd have been really starting to speak and travel all over the country. And yeah. And I didn't necessarily want to work for him,
Right.
but
Who does? No, who wants to work for you? But working for your dad isn't necessarily the
yeah, I don't even think it was about like working for your family. Just like I knew I wanted to do something pretty big. I had this niche of health,
right.
but I didn't want to just be a personal trainer. I saw something a little bit different. And so that's where I started in corporate wellness. That was kind of my specialty, organizational wellness. And I knew I didn't want to just start working for my dad right away. You're not going to learn anything.
Tell me what that is. Organizational wellness. I mean, or tell.
Yeah, take any organization, and I'm talking about 100 plus employees
Right.
usually. What are you going to do for them to make sure that they're happy every day, that they're feeling their best? Healthcare costs at the time, and it still is always the conversation. So just kind of figuring out how do you manage that.
And why is that important for the organization? Like,
Well, your people, their number one greatest asset is their health. And so you say, I want you to perform, I want you to do more cases, I want you to put in more hours, and they don't have any in their tank.
right,
So your health is your whole thing. I think 30 years ago, it didn't matter because people could go home and do their own thing, put the door, close the door for the day. But today, good luck going home and putting work down. And so organizational wellness started becoming really important. People were burned out. The healthcare cost is going through the roof. And so that was kind of the gist is how do you
and when did you think you wanted to be doing that? Like, are we
in the
college?
in
or?
the middle of college.
Okay.
Yeah, I did a couple different entrepreneur pitches on health, and a couple of them failed. But you kind of learn, well, I don't really want to open a restaurant. I don't want to really open a gym. And then I saw this opportunity. Back to my grandfather, I liked being at a boardroom. I liked being with senior executives. I liked talking this conversation that's not normal. So I knew I wanted to go that route. And somehow I got a meeting with the CEO of Auto Owners at 22 years old. We had breakfast,
Right.
and I said, I want to run your health and wellness. And at the time, they didn't have one. And so he said, if we're going to do this, you have to learn the whole business first. And so that was my first job.
And when you're in college, are you working for Chris on the side? Are you doing anything?
Nah, I mean, I was working at the golf course, and I was doing a couple internships. I actually worked and did an internship for Dean Holland at Accident Fund. So just
There you
different
go.
jobs, getting different experiences. But I could always go back to my dad.
Right.
I could work for him at any time.
It was your safety.
Well, if you
safety-
wanted,
they
if you
call it
wanted
the
to,
safety school.
Yeah.
Like,
So I wanted to go get different experiences, and I've seen it happen with different families around town, and it's usually the best thing to let them out first, learn something, then bring that different aspect. When I first worked at Auto Owners, it was the first time I used Outlook and email, in a
Right.
professional way.
Right.
So there's very specific things that helped, because if I would have worked straight for my dad, we're going straight into it, and I don't have any other perspective.
right. And no party who says, God, maybe I should give the pro golfing thing a shot.
It would cross my mind. My golf game went south for a good year and a half.
Really?
Yeah. I went from hitting a sweep draw to trying to hit a cut.
Well, tell me what that means. A sweep draw. Was the ball moving 20 yards?
Yeah.
30?
Yeah, I'm aiming down the right rough,
30 yards?
and it's ending in the left fairway.
Yeah.
And any tree to the right's going to be problematic off the tee.
Yeah.
But it worked 95% of the golf courses. I could aim it as far right and it's coming back. It's like a boomerang.
Yeah.
So in college, you're starting to really try to hit a straight ball or a cut, and that's a huge change. And it took me not just physically, mentally. Like, I'm seeing a draw and it's coming out as it's a disaster. But
Yeah.
again, all those things are so good. I learned to love golf in a different way. I learned to
Right.
play it in a different way. I learned to
You never thought about just hitting it straight all the time?
I'm not like you. I never had that.
Maybe I only hit it 210.
Yeah, probably would have. What I really loved in golf is the team aspect became so much more enjoyable than the individual. And to be a
Really?
professional golfer, it has to be all individual.
It's pretty, to me, when I look at it now, it's just like, I can't imagine wanting to do that. Like, what kind of lifestyle is that?
You better be pretty elite or pretty hungry or pretty trying to prove a point, right? There's, I played a couple years ago with my Uncle Pete with Rocco Mediate, and he's just obsessed.
Right.
He's still on the Champions Tour, doesn't have to play, but he's obsessed.
Right.
I never was obsessed by playing, practicing,
Yeah.
talking about it. That kind of fizzled out. I loved the game,
Yeah.
but I never was a huge practicer. Not because I didn't want to work. I'd rather go to the gym.
What happened to your track stuff? You quit that and you never got back to it?
Yeah, I had a bad experience with that cross country. The coach was the same coach.
Yeah.
The coach was a 6'10", old school gym teacher, and he actually became the assistant coach in golf. So I became closer to him. I just kind of fell out of. I got really singular, and to play golf at a high level, you kind of have to.
Right. And it was just on the verge. We were just on the verge of being all year round because we had the indoor driving range and you could go
Yeah.
hit balls and you
And
know
that fall season is a weird season. It is a full time even
right,
then.
right,
You know,
right.
you move it to the spring, it's a whole different game.
Yeah,
And the fall golf, high school golf, was still a pretty good thing. Now you don't even really have to play high school golf because it's in the middle of
Right.
the summer,
Right,
so
right.
you can play in the tournament.
so you graduate in '09, and what do? You go to work for auto owners, right?
I go to auto owners, and it's a real quick wake up call. I'm an underwriter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what underwriting is. So
Right.
Ron asked me, "Do you want to be what department do you want to be in?" And so I did my homework, and I said claims. He said, "No, you don't. So you're going to be an underwriter." So I
Right.
became an underwriter, and there's this underwriting territory. They kind of put I would say, talented people with no experience in insurance. It was Detroit underwriting, Tri-County underwriting, and so it was a lot of activity. And so I did that for a year and a half. And one of the things
Great company, probably.
great company, and you learn so much when you try to learn the little things there. Now, did I learn a ton about corporate wellness or no? I was doing a job as an underwriter,
Right.
but you're around these people, and so this is what I took away from it. You're around some people that are great people that aren't that happy at work.
Right.
They're not in good shape. They complain a lot. They don't move their body, and so you start to realize you can't always tell people. So if you come to see me because you want to get better at golf, that's a specific
Right.
need. Well, how do you get people motivated that aren't motivated? And that's what I saw is you got to come at a different angle. You have to paint a different picture. And that's kind of what I learned at Auto Owners, just watching.
You know what they say on the reels, though?
Yeah, it's
You don't need to be motivated. Motivation is, it's discipline. What you need is discipline,
sure.
But-
Try to get a 30-year career employee from any company
Right.
that is 100 pounds overweight, that is probably a little depressed if they were honest. Tell them how they're going to get to the gym on Monday.
Yeah.
So it is behavior change. You have to paint a different
Right.
picture. You have to give them steps that. So I saw that for the first time because up until this point, I'm around people that like health and wellness.
Right.
I'm around people that are pretty driven, pretty athletic, and you say, well, there's people that need your help too.
And you played at a very high level. You've seen what not only, maybe not for yourself at the highest level, but you've been around people at the highest level. I mean,
Yeah.
I assumed then that you knew Bram pretty well.
Yeah, so Grant was his roommate, so I got to know him that
Yeah,
way, and
yeah.
we'd go to Michigan State. And I mean,
You knew people playing at a very high level. You knew what excellence was, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's not in underwriting, right? The idea
So-
that you've been around greatness,
yeah, and I've been around athletes in different perspectives. My father was training a couple, and I'd
Right.
see different people. And, what I realized what I was going to do, and that's always a question, like, what are you going to do? What do we do now? There's no direct path. There's so many different ways
Right.
to get it. What I realized is I wasn't necessarily great at optimizing my athletic potential. I did pretty well. But what I was good at is actually helping people optimize for their potential, not just athletics. So I could see these, let's just say, women at work, and I could kind of give them a couple nuggets where they are nudged to do something different that
Right.
they weren't ever going to do. And I could do that with different people, whether it was an athlete or executive. And so that's when I came back to On Target Living. I said, okay, it's time for me to come work here. I didn't really know my role. At that time, I didn't know I was going to speak or write books.
Right.
But I believed in what my father was trying to build. And there's no one better because I knew that, and I also knew kind of how to do it. And then, in 2011 is when I first came on board with On Target Living.
So you're at Auto Owners for 3 years?
About a year and a half.
And
Yeah.
then what?
Felt like 3 years, but
Yeah.
So then, I actually approached my dad and said, it's time for me to come here, and here's what I'm going to do. I think my title was,
Because he's just sort of a solo guy, right?
hey, solo. He has,
Right. Still working at the Mac?
nope, he would have left the Mac by now.
Okay.
He left the Mac, I think, in 08, 09, something
Yeah.
like that. So he's full-time speaking. On Target Living is the
Right.
business. He's got a salesperson and he's got a assistant. So I'm technically the fourth employee. And my job was to take it, and I still say to this day, a lot of people think On Target Living is Chris Johnson. Well, at the time it was,
Right.
but I wanted to take the Chris Johnson out of it and make On Target Living the thing.
Right.
And so my job was to really create a structure, an infrastructure, a demand, a business that could outlive him, which is going to be a tough task, but also be something that has some legs. So that was the job.
And he knew that when you came in, right? I mean, this wasn't something
he's such a big vision. Yeah, he wanted that. You know, at the time he would talk about, I want to build a retreat center, and you think of that, there's no chance, or how's that going to work? And I want to speak on every big stage. I want to have this methodology. But the difference with him is he's not driven by that part. He's driven by the helping the people. So he needed help, and he's as good a coach as there is to put you in a position to fail, but also to do your own thing. So he's not going to micromanage me. You know, my first year, I'd probably see him 10 times a year because he'd be out on the road, and his office was at his house. So I'd go into this office that we had with this other lady.
Where was that?
In Okemos, across from Okemos High School.
Okay.
It was the Future Media building. And I'd be in there, and you'd kind of have this table, and you'd say, well, what do I need to do today?
Right.
You had no plan. You had no one telling you what to do. And you'd slowly start to make the calls and figure it out. And that's kind of how it all began for me On Target Living. And that's when I became closer to Ryan. So Ryan was back here now. He tried
he was the golf
assistant coach.
Yeah.
We train at the MAC together, and you know, Matt Harmon called me and wanted me to kind of help him with his health and wellness. And then Ryan caught wind, and he wanted me to help him. And so that's kind of how I did a little bit of that work.
Right.
But that wasn't my main focus. My main focus was, how do I get this training in Bank of America?
Right.
How do I get this training in Costco? And so I'd look at the Fortune 100 companies and say, how do we help them out? And that was for 10 years, that's what I tried to do for.
And how'd you do?
We did good. I think at some point we probably worked with 50 of the top Fortune 100 companies in some capacity. And most people think I do it through HR. We probably worked through HR 1% of the time. Who we worked with were the visionary leaders that said our people need to be better. And to be better, they need to be healthier.
Right.
And they could see the connection. And that was always that's what made us unique, is it wasn't health and wellness that people like roll their eyes. Like, let's have a lunch and learn, and let's play patty cake.
Right.
It was, you're over-medicated and you don't want to be over-medicated. Let me help you. Or your energy is a 5 and you need it to be a 9 for this next 3 quarters to do what you want. And so we'd go in there and really, I think, would paint a picture that was new. And there's a lot of organizations that are doing more of that stuff. There's a lot of performance stuff. You know, Gary Breckas of the world are out there. But
I think it says a lot, though, from the employer standpoint, when they, you know, take the time to say, you know, regardless of whether it
ROI.
Yeah, regardless of whether it helps our business, you know, this is going to make your life better, right?
Well, I think we see it now. Like, why why do you work at a job? Obviously, you get paid,
right?
But you want to feel good,
right?
And I think the stat is close to 60% of people say work's their number one stressor. And so early on, we would go into these board meetings and say, imagine if that was flipped. Like, what if the workplace was their number one source of inspiration and excitement?
Right.
But it's hard because everyone wants the ROI. They want, how are they going to pay for it? And so we would really specialize on the sales side of it, or the side that really wanted growth and performance, versus the side that's checking every box and making sure that there's a ROI or investment.
And so you do that for 10 years, and your dad is really, you know.
Yeah, we got him booked all over the world. You know?
Right.
And about a year and a half or 2 years in, phone rings and they want Chris to speak, and it's a small company in town. And I'm like, your budget isn't quite where it would need to be and it's not the right fit, but I'm happy to come in.
Right.
And so I never wanted to be a public speaker.
Right.
You know, that's not I'm more of an introvert by nature, but I am an extrovert when I love what I do.
Right.
But as a speaker, you got to be really out there. I mean, you're
exposed.
pretty exposed. So
right.
I probably tried to not do that, but and my dad probably knew I was going to eventually do it. I wasn't forced. And so one day, phone rings, I go do it, and I love it. And so the next thing I know, the sales lady, they start pricing me at a little different prices for these different markets. And I go out there, and my dad jokes, and he's probably telling the truth, but he's probably, he's always my best cheerleader. He said, the guy called me and said, "Hey, I heard your son speak, and I heard you speak 5 years, and I think your son's better." And so that was always the fun thing is
Right.
there was no competition. It was, we're trying to get a message out. And the way that we can do that is through a form of large groups, public speaking on a stage.
Right.
And so I started speaking.
And the message is what?
The message is anyone has the power to feel your best.
Right.
But you have to do some basic things. And we call it rest, eat, move. There's 3 pillars that everyone has control over. And, today people are thinking, well, that's not radical. And
Rest isn't always that easy to control, I think. But, it's subject to everything we do, right? What we put in our body, what we think about, our own disciplines.
I mean, the phone makes it impossible to truly
Right.
rest how we want mentally. So we started teaching this framework, and but I'll tell you, Andrew, the hardest part of my job is selling what we were trying to do. You think these organizations that were getting crushed and people were unhappy, they still didn't see the connection to why do I need to invest in my people's health? This was,
Right.
this was from 2011 to 2018-ish. This was like pulling teeth. Now, when people bought in and they saw it, they were like, "Oh yeah, it's working."
Right.
And you'd get these people, and that's how we got to them. But if you lost any relationship, if you lost any of that visionary leadership, you're down on the totem pole.
So your basic model is, you're basically pounding on these Fortune 500 companies and other companies. Hey, let us pitch to make
let us train your people to feel their best.
right. And that's, and you do that for 10 years and you write books, right?
Yeah. I
You
mean,
got a
obviously,
website and you're selling, right?
yeah. So there's many books, and we do that for a while, and we start to, how do we do more? And you start to realize, well, there's sometimes only so much you can do.
Right.
You don't work in the organization, so you write books, and that's when my dad and I got together and said, we need to tell this story a little different, because if you just write a wellness book, no CEO picks up and is like, "This is what I'm going to read." So how can we write something for the CEO or the COO or the executive team to say, this is a business strategy? So we came up with this concept called capacity.
Mm-hmm.
And capacity is about everyone wants more capacity. And you hear it, coaches talk about it,
Right.
organizations,
yeah.
they talk about it. And so capacity is like the opposite of what we've been doing up to this point. We've been leading with health, but then we're building people's capacity.
Right.
So we wrote this book, Capacity, and my dad and I co-wrote it. And the truth is, it was 4 years too early. If we would have wrote it in the peak of COVID, I think it would have been a really, really successful book. It still was on the fringe of people thinking, yeah, people are at capacity,
Right.
but what am I going to do about it? In the middle of COVID, I couldn't tell you, when we went from speaking in person to virtual, the amount of organizations that would have done anything to give their people just one more ounce of optimism and hope.
Right.
And so that's,
So, and when do you open the office out by Eagle?
the year before COVID. So it was about 1 year before.
Okay. And so that was a big investment, right?
Huge. And we had talked about different things over the years, and then we'd kind of get deviated. And then Alex Koss and I were real close, and I said, "Hey, will Daryl sell us any piece of property?" Because we wanted something unique, not
Right.
just a building. We wanted something with nature, and so
a
that's what,
signature spot. Where
and that was always, my dad would always say, "I want a retreat center," and we
Right.
didn't necessarily shoot for that, but so that was the design of it, and I think we did a really nice job of building the gym and the kitchen and a place for people to work, and then the warehouse, because at this time now we're selling on the website different products that we promoted, which wasn't our core
Right.
business, but we knew we needed that, and I think we did a beautiful job building.
and then COVID hit.
Then we have like a launch party in, I don't know, February, and then COVID hits in March, and you're like,
Isn't that funny? Like,
What are you gonna do?
Like, I mean, I mean, I remember February we were at Yellowstone Club skiing,
Yeah.
and and people were getting sick, but you never thought. And then
I was speaking in Houston and came home, and I never had been so sick. I never tested
Right.
positive for COVID, but something was going around.
Right, right,
And then March, we get a call, and I mean, we have 30 gigs on our calendar,
right.
and they're wiped. And the way we write our contracts, we probably should get a better attorney, but we're very open to say whatever's the best
Yeah,
case.
I mean, you're not going to sue over it anyway, right?
So 30 events go off the books in one day. We have no events. That's 95% of our revenue. And my dad and I looked at each other and said, well, we're not going to lay anyone off, at least yet.
Right.
And then the phone starts ringing. And luckily, 3 months before that, I did my first paid webinar. And I remember coming home and like, this was really weird, like looking at this camera. And I did
Right.
a nice setup like this
Right.
and charged a decent amount for what I thought just sitting at home. I said, this is interesting. I just don't know how many people would pay for this
Right.
because you can do in person. So luckily, I had that set up. So literally one day, wiped off the calendar. Next day, they say, can you do these virtual? And we were already way ahead of the game. And we did 600 virtual presentations over the next
Yeah, because
couple
I
years.
mean, I mean, I'm sure everybody remembers. I didn't know how we were gonna,
Yeah.
how you were gonna like, what was gonna happen. Courts were closed.
How you gonna make?
You know,
how you gonna pay the check? And everyone went home, but I stayed there as the essential worker
Yeah, we
doing the.
still came in. I mean, we were. I'm not sure whether we could be open or not, but you had to come every day and get
I
the
still
mail.
I gotta still give them a check. You know,
Yeah.
these people are at home. I mean, we had 10 employees right in the middle of it. So
Right. Yeah. So you're facing that adversity, and I mean,
our business, it was funny. If we could slow down a little bit, our business had never been busier, but you're charging a little bit different. It's not as big of a ticket, but you're
Right.
doing it also from your house, and there's a lot of other distractions. And I remember thinking like in 21, like finally these organizations realize their people matter more than just a number.
yeah.
And they were doing some really, I thought, some cool things virtually. Now, virtually is not the best way to train anybody. It loses
No,
its luster.
right.
They're multitasking. Then Teams comes along and they're on a webinar watching us, but they're also working. So
Right.
you knew that was going to fade out, but it didn't stick. And organizations went right back to the same old thing and went 10 times faster. Now coming out of COVID, you don't only have emails and phone. Now you got the Teams dinging and binging and Slack channel,
right.
and people are maxed out. But organizations, I think, have never been, in my perspective, and I've worked with all of them, I think they've never been more lopsided at realizing they got to do something for their people different than they used to. You can't expect somebody to be in a hybrid virtual all in every day all day and think that they're going to be performing personally and professionally at their best.
I mean, the question is, they invest so much in their employees, right? And if they're not happy, the employees aren't happy, they're not going to stick around,
Yeah,
right?
and you're seeing that.
And we see that the younger, the average stay at their employer is like 2 or 3 years, right?
And we used to say that, I remember. That was kind of my sales pitch, and it never hit, so we stopped talking about it. But like in 2015, we would talk about this.
Yeah.
Engagement is super low, and you could track it. Like, what's my employee engagement? They're like, yeah, but we pay well. And so now
We didn't know that there was anything else,
didn't know.
Right.
So I think it's there's a big shift coming. AI and all that kind of stuff is just making this workplace a little bit tougher. Now, there's some people love their job, but I think most people feel like their job gets in the way of what they're trying to do, but they need the money to do what they want to do. So there's something that I think will come out positive. And our training continued over the years, but it's changed so much since COVID.
Yeah.
Is my
I
point.
remember, so I'm at Yellowstone Club,
Great place.
and I fall.
Oh,
Not a serious fall, but I fell, like I'm trying to avoid a little girl skiing down the hill, and She cuts in front of me. And
Skis get crossed and you're
not really, but I kind of slide over to the side, and there's a snowcat edge, like a curve, but it's ice, and I kind of it's just as I'm coming to a stop, I sort of hit it
sure.
and just fall over. And it wasn't like even like, but I land on my shoulder, and all I think was, oh man, that's really gonna hurt, And I get up, and it hurts, and I think, this will go away in a day or two or whatever. And we ski, and then we ski that day, and then everybody starts getting sick, like throwing up, like like projectile. I mean, there's like 8 of us. I don't get sick, but I remember,
Everyone's falling.
we had to get up at like 3 a.m. and get in the Uber, take it down to Bozeman, get on the flight, and I'm thinking, this is going to be the worst flight in the world if I start throwing up. And anyway, I don't get sick.
That's right when COVID hits.
Yeah, and, this is whatever it is, President's Weekend in February, and then I remember talking to your dad, like a month later when they shut everything down, and I'm like, well, should I come in for training? I wasn't really sure, and I'm like, well, maybe I shouldn't come in, so I sort of phased it out. But I ended up tearing my bicep.
I didn't realize that's how you hurt your shoulder.
Yeah, bicep, tricep, and labrum all were torn. And I remember I worked with them the whole time, and they kept saying, go to PT because that'll help. I mean, it didn't get diagnosed right away, but man, those were some dark days because I had this tear.
He's trying to have you fight through it.
Yeah, no, I mean he was great.
He was trying to help.
He
you,
was great.
Yeah.
He was great. It was
Huh.
And even my doctor said PT pre-surgery the outcome's gonna be much better.
Sure.
But man, that was just I had an injury. I'm not too happy, and I always said the pain is like a 1 or a 2.
Until you want to do something.
No, but even 1 or 2 when it's all the time. When it's all the time,
Sleeping,
yeah,
sitting.
walking around it can get to you. You don't realize how pain can really impact your life, can put you down, and
Yeah. I mean, the truth is with people is they're in pain, whether it's physical or mental, and that's all we ever wanted to try to help these organizations do. And so what we kind of pivoted over the last couple of years is to just take it out of the company to make that decision, for us to come in to say, okay, we'll bring it to the company when the right company gets it, but I'm not going to fight and claw. I'm going to bring it to the people. So we kind of shifted our business from just always focusing on the corporation to let's go to the people. So we, over those years, and we did it before, but with the podcast, webinars, different resources, our website, and it's been a good mix.
How's it going?
Great. Our business has evolved from a speaking business to, I think, a much more diverse business. So we speak.
Right.
It's kind of our bread and butter. But then we have our website that we sell some of our superfoods on, and that's growing like crazy. So that's a whole business in itself that could be 99% of my day every day. And then the podcast and different resources that allow people to experience this for free. And what you're trying to do is get them into the funnel of some sort of in the ecosystem of on-target living.
Thinking about it.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's why this kind of stuff is so powerful that just didn't think about it 10, 15.
How's your podcast doing? Because the only reason why I do this is because of you guys.
You saw the podcast?
I would talk, I'd be in Chris's office and I'm like, what's this all about?
Yeah, I think the podcast is so good to get some different topics out long form. Like we're talking today, we're talking about things that I'm never going to talk about on air unless you ask these great questions. And the same thing with health. I mean, I can do my hour presentation or keynote, but you didn't get the other 99% of my wealth of knowledge that I have. And so the podcast allows us to slower. I can sit with my father and I can ask him questions that I know people should ask. And it just gives people the opportunity to learn a little bit more. So I think you can't do too much of this kind of stuff, but you also have to manage how do you make money from doing it. It's not always connect the dots.
So, I mean, you come in and your goal is to make OTL bigger than Chris Johnson, right? but until I mean, but he's still a major part of it, right?
Yeah, I think we're finally to a point that if he didn't speak ever again, we would be fine.
But what was it? Less than a year ago, he decided I'm going to retire. Is that
He decided we're gonna create a ahead of the game succession plan so that I don't have to manage things.
was it less than a year ago?
Yeah, the beginning of 24 January is when I took over as the sole.
Yeah, but he was still training. He was still.
He's still doing it. He
Yeah,
loves
no,
he
I
loves
know.
what he's doing.
I know, but it was like I was pretty regular with him, and then all of
Yeah.
a sudden it was like,
Then he's at Douglas Lake for 6 months. You can't get in to
I was
see him.
like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, he'll do this for the rest of his life. But he wanted to get ahead of it. I wanted to get ahead of it. As anything, I have a vision that maybe is a little bit different. It's pretty close, but it's a little bit different. And he just was at 68 years old, kind of sick of the managing people, dealing with these companies. So I kind of take care of that, and we send him to speak where he wants. He comes in when he's home most
Did you
of the time.
ever think, okay, now this is where the rubber hits the road? My dad's built a nice career, but man,
Well,
if this tanks, this is all
I
on
met
me.
with Ricky Norris and John O'Leary, two of
Right.
his friends, and they kind of have helped me mentor in some ways. And they said, your dad's built a good business. You don't want to screw this up. But
Right.
they do it in a very loving way of like, you can't get rid of it. And I'm never going to get rid of the DNA. And
Right.
my never plan was to do that. But yeah, now the rubber meets the road. I have
Right.
to do a lot of the work. But my sister is actually coming on board to.
Oh, that's great.
So she
Back
she
from
did.
Chicago, or just going
No.
to do it from Chicago?
She spoke for us for many years,
Right.
and then she had 3 kids, and she actually was the chef for the governor for a little
Right.
bit, and COVID kind of screwed up Chicago, and so they came back. But she's going to speak starting this year full time again, and so we're keeping it in the family, but I have a vision that really gets our message because the listeners know us because we're local.
Right.
But there's a lot of people that hear all this stuff that's national, and it's like this diet and this trend and what Gary Breck is saying and Peter Attia and 60 Minutes. And I think all that can be great. But I think what's missing is really some structure. You do this for one day, and then the next day you go to the next trend. And my vision is to slowly continue to get our message out there. But it's never going to be
1%
it's
better. Right.
the vital few. It's never going to be the sexiest or easiest.
Right.
And that's what I think is, this is our 20th year of business. 2006 is when On Target Living was incorporated.
There you go.
That's a pretty powerful statement for a business that wasn't created down a typical structure.
But you are sort of running a family business,
Yeah.
and you've taken over for your dad, and that's not always easy. And your dad was, a big personality,
Yeah,
very popular.
yeah. And he still, I mean,
He still is. He still is, but
yeah.
it's still not an easy. I mean, in many ways, our lives are very
Similar.
similar.
Yeah.
Running a family business isn't easy. Taking over, sort of, we did it in different ways, but it's and there's the On Target Living thing that people just assume is going to keep going forever, and then there's
Yeah.
being in the office or wherever and realizing we need to make money, we need to pay the bills, we need to keep the lights on,
Yeah.
and there's maybe some dark days when you think,
It's
oh,
it's
man.
it's not necessarily dark, but it's pressure. I've learned some mistakes. We all learn mistakes, and then you try to correct them. And one of our things is we built this amazing retreat center. And one day, as I took over the business, I'm thinking, Andrew's not in here today. My dad's not in here today. Tab's not in here today, and it's me in this 5,000 square foot $1 million+ building, and I don't need it anymore.
right,
And so you start to make these decisions that, is it nice to have? Sure, but is it essential for where we want to go? No. And so we've moved from that location that we thought going to be
right,
but things change, and so now we're in Mason, and the first thing I did is put a golf simulator in our office to give it a little bit of my spin on it, and
Right.
away we go. We have our podcast studio, and Abby, who works for us, is doing fantastic. And the future of our business, I know where it's going to go, but I think the opportunity is every disease and illness is at its all-time high today, and it will be higher tomorrow. And there's more medications, there's more podcasts.
But by the same token, couldn't you say, there's a segment of our population that's healthier than it's ever been?
I think there's a segment of our population that's interested in being healthier than it's ever been. And sometimes that happens and they get healthier. I still think there's this thing where people just skim over what they want and do what they hear.
Right.
There's still some very simple things that will make people healthier and happier that they're not doing for the most part. And that gets lost in social media if that's how you're going to get your information, because it's not sexy. It's like the grip in the golf swing. If you don't learn the grip, you can learn how to leverage off the ground and do these cool things. You might hit it a long way, but there's some foundations that should be in place first. It's like I have this slide, and it's like if I'm going to build the new Michigan State Stadium, the foundation better be pretty good.
Right.
Because if I'm going to add to it, and so I do think there's a lot more, but 87% of the population still doesn't move their body. And how many podcasts are on movement? I mean, there's so much information out there. So I think there's so much opportunity. But at the end of the day, what we really, if you said, what do we do? I don't know if there's an easy answer, but if somebody feels like they're going down a medication path, or if they feel like their energy isn't where they want it to go, or they just want to have a more efficient lifestyle, like, how are you going to learn that? And that's kind of what we try to teach. We try to teach this lifestyle that you can do the rest of your life, where you can, you asked me, there's no sugar in your house. You can have sugar in your house, but how do you have a plan so that for 80% of the time, you're just not eating that crap? Or you're moving every day. And, I saw you over when you would come in, exercise wise, you've done different things and yoga, but there's still some nuances that's hard to learn through a 30-second clip and to do it on yourself.
For sure.
We all need our own coach. We all need coaches.
Like Chris was my life coach.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it was like that aspect is, and quite frankly, he's been generous with his time, and he said, here's some dates, let's do this. And I,
Yeah, from a business standpoint, I said, hey, you're terrible. You just did 5 gigs for free. But that's who he is. That's how we built it. And so my job is to take it from what he's created. And just like anyone that you recognize, Gary Brecka's kids in the business, and there's different ways to get the message out there. I'm not chasing fame or fortune. I'm chasing, how do we get this message to the vital few like you and different people that can really benefit. You don't have to be Chris Johnson. You don't have to be perfect. But if you can do some rest, eat, move, basic things,
balance,
your life gets better. And that's really, to me, my mission.
So let me ask you this question, which I've asked a lot of people like you. You grow up in Hazlet. You're good looking. You're healthy. I don't know if you're 6 feet, but you're close to it, right? You go to Grand Valley.
I've never hit 6 foot, 5'11 and a half, but I'll take six things.
That's what I say. I argue with Cleveland Clinic all the time. I said, that can't be right. But you could go anywhere, right? You could have gone anywhere, and you end up, you worked in Detroit for a period of time. I don't know if you commuted or.
No, I didn't work in Detroit. So I went from Grand Rapids back here.
Okay, so auto owners. You were underwriting,
but my territory was Detroit.
I got you. So you were commuting down there, or did you not have to?
No, just on the phone. Yeah, these would have been the agents that are out of Detroit.
So but Grand Valley, you could have got a job going anywhere. And
everyone's going to Chicago, Nashville, California.
Your sister went to Chicago. Why come back here? And by the way, at this point, I said the same thing about Casey. You're probably not going anywhere for a while. You're sort of.
I'm pretty locked in here. Well, in 2009 was terrible job market.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But that never even really crossed my mind. Obviously I have an upbringing where my parents support me in a way of, they're not going to take care of me, but there was some safety to that piece. But I don't know about you, but I've always liked Lansing. I've never went anywhere and been like, oh, Lansing's terrible to this. And Michigan in general, to me, I've spoken almost every state. It's my favorite place to be.
And you could probably take your business anywhere too, right?
You could probably would thrive in some different places and different
Right.
aspects. You know, I'd go to Tampa. I would see you in Tampa. You were going
Yeah.
to Tampa for a while. I'd go 6 times a year for Raymond James in St. Pete. I did a training there for 12 years. If our company was based in Tampa, the amount of business walk-in and like
Right.
interested, so people are a lot more interested. But Michigan, to me, that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in helping more people in Michigan feel their best. So that's, and I like it. It's not that I just happen to choose here. I like it.
And where do you see your business going from here?
I think, you know, our podcast, it's not like we advertise it, but people listen to it all over the world. They stumble upon it. It's not something that's, you know, competing with Joe Rogan, or I was watching the award show yesterday. It's not going to win those awards. But people call us and write us every day like, I love listening to your podcast. And it's just something that we do. You know, I don't even have a theme for next week. We sit down, we say what's relevant right now, and we just go. So I think the podcast will continue to grow and bring people in. But our future business is really going to be in the digital space of some way of how do you touch people where you don't have to always go and speak. Because I have to get hired by someone to speak,
Right.
which then is in their control of what message gets delivered, and they tell me what topic they want. So the future of our business is always going to do that. But I want to have such a control over our message and where we're going that the digital spaces, to me, webinars, podcasts, videos, YouTube, social media, and that's what we're really starting to amp
Do you
up.
ever think we're gonna find a definitive diet that everybody will agree on, or will this constantly be another fad?
I think we have to at some point look and say it's not the diet or the workout. It's like it's like anyone that coaches you. Like a difference between, is there a right way to be an attorney or not? No, there's
I think there are. I mean, I have some fundamental beliefs.
fundamentals. Yeah.
Right.
So I talk about the art and the science. So there's scientific, fundamental, and that's where at 80% of what Peter Attia and Gary Brecker and these talking heads that are very successful, 80% they're right. Where they get really twisted is how do you show up on a algorithm? You have to be like saying something unique or different.
Right. Social media popularity.
And I
is
think
different.
that's where we've gotten it wrong, is we've made it so much like we're focused on so many of the details that don't matter, and we're not focused on the small details that matter a ton, because they're kind of like blocking and tackling. You don't really want to care about them. But that's what's going to happen is everyone's different. My father and I, like, I ask him questions like, wow, I wish I wanted you to ask me a question because I know what he's thinking.
Right.
But the way that I eat and the way that he eats is fundamentally the same, but looks completely different. You know, my age, my kids, and all that kind of stuff. So there's not one way, but I do think there's a parameter. There's a foundation that is pretty simple. You know, I'm Lebanese.
Right.
If you tell somebody that they can't eat something and you're going to go to a Lebanese event, like, I don't want to go to that Lebanese event.
Right.
I want to have the mushta, and I want to have the kibbeh, and I want to have the rice, and I'm going to have it because 80% of the time I'm going to be doing really good things.
Yeah, but I mean, that can't be that bad for you.
Have you ever seen it made? the amount of butter and salt in most of the, but no, it's not.
I mean,
terrible.
you can't eat it all the time, but I mean, you know, once in a while, it can't be terrible for you.
I don't know. I can't stop eating it. Maybe that's the problem. It's too good. No, I think the diet piece. That's why Ozempic and Wegovy are going to be the number one drugs in the world.
Yeah.
Is there positive of it? Sure. I still don't think there's a book written by Robert Kiyosaki. We don't teach people how to fish. We just give them fish.
Right.
That's the problem. You know, it's like when people say, well, what diet are you on? I'm not on a diet. I just know how to eat. I know how to eat to what I like, because eating is part enjoyment.
Right.
But I also know what to eat to make me feel good. And that's the art. How do you do it in a way that Andrew can do it? You know, I'm sure there's foods you hate that I like.
Yeah, for sure.
Or vice versa. So if I say you got to eat this way, you're like, well, I don't like this.
That's great. How are we doing on time? Hour 35. Oh, wow. Getting to the end.
You're getting long on these, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is great.
They're fun. Yeah, fun conversations. Yeah.
What about your golf game? Huh?
Well, so I bought Ryan's TrackMan,
Okay.
and I haven't played since I bought it. So I play indoors at on the TrackMan, but I haven't played outside. But my golf game is I put it in the office in October. Haven't played outside since.
But do you hit 100 balls a day, 50 balls a day?
No, but I might start. I probably swing 50 swings a day, just walking by,
Yeah.
thinking about it.
I mean, when we played a couple years ago, so not maybe 3 years ago, right?
My game is so much better than it's ever been in some aspects, and just terrible in the ones that frustrate me, like chipping inside 100 yards.
I got to tell you one story before we end. Okay, so
I'll tell you a story too.
I'm
after
telling you,
that.
I'm in high school, probably.
Me?
I am.
Oh,
And your dad was, whatever. I mean, I knew him, and
how much older is he?
I'm 60, so he's 8 years.
Oh,
so he
okay.
was,
Yeah, quite a bit. Yeah.
yeah. So he was Teresa's age. So, and maybe I'm in college, but I could have been in college. And your dad and Chris and I and Jimmy Werble will go out to play. No, your dad and Gary
And my grandpa. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gary.
go out and play. Now, I don't know if you ever played, and we're gambling, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're playing.
My
and-
grandpa's playing. You're gambling. Yeah.
Yeah, and he is, people who don't know Gary, I don't think he ever looked bad.
No. He was
Always
put
looked
together.
like $1 million, right? And he was sharp as a tack, and he just, whatever was going to happen, and I don't think he was any good, but whatever it was
It's good
wasn't-
enough.
He
Yeah.
wasn't terrible.
No.
And we were giving him strokes, and I'm not sure he played under the USGA rule.
I don't think he played under any rules.
And we're playing along, and listen, it would have been like $15 or $20 bet, but back then for us,
Yeah.
we didn't have any money on it, and something happened on the 14th hole, like he walked up and he slapped his ball around, or he might have said something to me like, "You're not going to make the putt," or whatever. I mean, he razzing us.
Oh yeah.
And we go to I don't remember what happened. I think we won the hole. Maybe they double something, how we got up. And then he was like, no, you can't count that. You can't count that putt. I mean, is this the way he would have been?
Oh, I mean, he had this thing that the Trideca Duel, and the Trideca Duel is on the 18th hole. He could be down 4, up 4. He's going to Trideca Duel, and what that means is you have no way of winning.
Right.
Yeah, he's going to come up with the bet at the end.
And on the 15th, in the middle, I was like, "What are you talking about?" Like we didn't get it that he was just
He's screwing with you.
yeah,
But-
yeah. And it was just like, and it was like,
and he'll end up handing you the 20.
$18.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
$18. It could have been, I was just beside myself.
You
know?
had never met the Gary Johnson of yeah.
It was just like, and Chris, Jerome and I had played, or Jimmy Werble and I had played against Chris and John O'Leary, and the rules of golf were like, important as long as they were in the fairway and on the green. But this would have been, when we were in high school or early college. But if they were off in the rough and,
Giving a little foot wedge. Yeah, here's one story that you need to know about my grandpa. He gets me in a poker game. I'm probably 18 or 19 at the club, and he loved playing poker, and I like to play. That's kind of when the poker became popular. So he buys my buy-in. It's $100, and you're playing with all these guys. We all know the same
Cash
guys.
game.
Cash game. And they all have, I don't have any money, but
Right.
so he buys me in, and the smart thing to do is let me play on a different table with your money to try to pull it together later. He puts me at the same table as him.
Right.
And in the first 30 minutes, he takes me out with his money that he bought me in. So that's what you need to know about him is he's going to be very generous, but he's also competitive. And at the end, he would have paid you $20 when you lost, but he wants you to feel the pain.
He was great, and he was at the club in and
46 years, I think, or 48.
probably one of the greatest eras of all time for the Lansing Country Club. And not that that's a big deal, but you know,
It was a big deal back then, though.
It
I think
was
he
a
joined
fun-
when he was 24.
it was a fun time. And you know, to be honest, I don't even know what your dad did or grandfather did. I don't know what Gary did. He was always good looking. He always drove, you know,
He was a real estate developer
a
later
great,
on.
great car. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, we would always talk and, you know, whatever. I mean, he always
It's funny you
looked
brought that up. How I end every presentation is a big slide of him.
Yeah.
It was me and him. I was 2 years old, and he never had his health. He
Yeah.
looked good,
Yeah.
but he never felt good.
He drank and he smoked.
Well, when
think,
I was
right?
born, he quit drinking, so I never actually saw him drink.
Yeah.
So he lived to 78, the normal life. But I talk about this in my presentation that one of the most important people in my life, super funny, witty. But what did he do? He could put a deal together. That's what he
Right.
did. So he's a real estate developer, and he knew how to put a deal together. Would that work today? Was it politically correct always? Probably not, but he did that.
Right.
But he also taught me how to, you know, bet on sports and in a fun way, not in a compulsive
Right.
way.
Right.
But it's kind of a dying era of people.
So do you ever think you'll defend your title and go back and win the All City?
I haven't played. Should I defend it? I haven't played. So the only event that really gets me interested is a spring medal play because it's the only GLOG event I never won. So
Really?
I might go try to win that one. And
I mean, you hit it far enough, and you know, you hit it. You know, I don't know if you hit it straight enough consistently, but you hit it when we played 3 years ago. Man, I thought
my game, again, like I said, my game's really good. Chipping used to be my strength. It's terrible because I don't play.
right. And how old are your kids?
9, 8, and 6. So they might start playing here soon.
And where do you play? If you were going to go out and play or practice?
I'll go over and bang balls at El Dorado. Maybe I'll go to Eagle Eye.
That's the problem.
Well, when our office was at Eagle
And
Eye,
how old are you?
I'm be 40 this year, 39.
Yeah, so you know at
The problem- the
at
problem
the
is
end
you're-
of this whole thing. I'll give you a little advice. Nobody's giving you a gold watch. Your kids just want you to be happy, and you know your kids just want you to be happy, and you really do have some, you know, talent. I mean, your golf swing. You know, how the hell Eric and I beat you in that match?
You keep bringing that up. What was my partner, Nick?
Yeah, I think it was mainly Eric, but
Yeah. So I mean, the problem with my golf game is your employee Eric. I never asked for strokes for about 8 years, so he'd take
well,
me.
you have a great game. You have a great game, and I think you ought to maybe put. And you know, your dad talks about some great rounds that you've played, and
I think there's a second season of me coming back. I think if my kids get into it, I'll really.
you're still young enough. You could easily be a +5 or +4, and you know, and enjoy it. And there's a lot of people that would still love to see you.
Well, we talked about family today. My claim of fame, we can end like this, is I think my father and I are the only father-son to win Lansing Country Club championship flight and Walnut Hills.
Really?
And Walnut Hills will never happen again. So
No,
we
so
got
you
that
got-
record.
yeah,
We got
well,
that record.
that's
So
amazing.
that's a pretty good deal. And my dad is very competitive.
Yeah.
But when I'm playing in something like that, I go into a different mode, and so I don't chit chat like he did with some of the competitors. I want to win this thing,
Right.
and it was tough at the end when we were kind of competing with. You might have been like an 8-10 handicap. That's tough in the championship.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can't win that.
Yeah,
You can't win unless you're +5. You know what I mean? You can't win it on your own unless you're really, really, really good.
we did it twice.
No,
but
I
that's-
know.
Yeah,
I'm
that's-
just saying you must have played out of your mind, and he
Yeah.
must have played pretty good because
Yeah,
I won it the last 2 years, and my partner was really good, and at times I was good, and you know it's a tough. It's a tough.
He
deal.
played with my grandpa for many years. My grandpa came to me one day and said, "Hey, it's your time." He wasn't able to play like he wanted to, and so that's how I think we played 10 years in a row, and
Still to this day,
this is one of my favorite tournaments.
still to this day, it's the biggest tournament I've ever played in with as far as spectators.
Oh yeah, it can be coming down 18 if it's
yeah,
close.
yeah.
I mean, the shootout is pretty nerve wracking. You
Yeah,
get the
it's
shootout.
crazy.
Well, thanks for having me.
This has been
Hey,
great.
thanks.
Thank you. Thanks.